Welcome back to the deep dive. I'm absolutely thrilled you're here with us today because we are about to go on a journey that completely rewires how you look at the physical world.
It really does. It's a massive perspective shift.
Yeah. Usually, we sit here at the desk with a stack of papers, maybe a coffee, and we talk through the theory. But today I want you to close your eyes.
Or keep them open if you're driving, obviously.
All right, yes, please keep them open if you're driving. But mentally, I want you to imagine we're putting on hard hats, we're grabbing our heavy-duty gear, and we are virtually stepping into a place called the Sensors and Advanced Instrumentation Laboratory.
SAIL, or, SAIL for short. And it is just a fascinating place to start a story like this.
It really is, because when most people hear the word laboratory, they think of white coats.
Sterile glass beakers?
Exactly, a Bunsen burner or two. Very clean, very quiet and controlled, but SAIL it's gritty.
It's very visceral.
Yeah, visceral is the right word. It's this unique intersection where the engineered world, and we're talking deep water instruments, advanced robotics, heavy metal sensors, where all of that meets the absolutely relentless forces of nature.
It is where the irresistible force meets the immovable object.
Right.
Or, well, at least the object that is trying very hard not to move.
Right. It's where metal meets the ocean. And when those two things meet, it is not a friendly handshake.
Not at all.
It's a war. And that is the central theme of today's deep dive. We are looking at that intersection, that universal battle between structural integrity, so keeping things built, ordered, and functional, and the sheer chaos of degradation.
We are talking about an entropy.
Entropy, the universal tendency for things to just, fall apart.
For order to dissolve into chaos.
Right. For the coffee to get cold, for the iron to rust, for the cell to die. It's the background radiation of the universe trying to tear everything down. And today we're looking at a very specific soldier in this war against entropy. I want to introduce our protagonist for today. It's the antioxidant.
Ugh. Yes. The infamous antioxidant.
Now, hold on. I can visually see you, the listener, rolling your eyes right now. You're reaching for the skip button.
They're groaning.
They are. They're thinking, okay, did I accidentally click on a wellness influencer deep dive? Are they going to try to sell me a berry smoothie bowl or some outrageously expensive skin cream?
Okay.
Because that is the reputation antioxidants have today, right? They're a wellness buzzword.
They absolutely are. It's become a marketing term for most people, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You see high in antioxidants on the side of a pomegranate juice bottle at the grocery store, and you just think, okay, this is good for me.
Without really knowing why or how.
Exactly. It's just magic health dust. It's this vague positive attribute that helps sell products.
But today, we are going to strip away the marketing entirely. We are ignoring the health food aisle. We are looking at this through the lens of a really fascinating piece of source material. It's an article titled The Shield and the Saboteur by William L. Weaver.
And it is just a fantastic piece of writing.
It really is. And this was published pretty recently, February 20th, 2026, in Independent Variables. And what I really love about Weaver's take is that he isn't a nutritionist.
No, not at all.
He isn't trying to sell you a 30-day diet plan. He's looking at this from an engineering and a strict chemistry perspective.
He is bridging the gap, which is exactly what we love to do here. He's taking us from the microscopic biochemistry of our own bodies, literally the stuff happening inside you right now, to the macroscopic engineering of massive ship hulls out in the Atlantic Ocean. And his thesis, honestly, it's blowing my mind a little bit.
Let's hit them with the reveal right up front then. Weaver argues that antioxidants aren't just good for you, they are specialized operatives in a massive fractal war.
And they aren't just one thing. They have two very distinct modes. They are a double-edged sword.
A double-edged sword.
Right.
So on one side, they are the sacrificial shield for our internal defenses. That's the side we sort of instinctively know about. But on the other side, they're the strategic saboteur against external invaders.
It is a complete reframe of how we view these molecules.
Totally.
We are going from thinking of them as dietary supplements you pop in the morning to thinking of them as tactical weapon systems.
So let's unpack this. We have to start with the defense, the internal war. Weaver sets the scene inside the human body, specifically at the cell wall. But he wants us to look at it like engineers.
Right. Because to understand why we need a shield, we have to understand what we are protecting.
You have to value the fortress.
Exactly. If you don't value the fortress, you really don't care about the walls.
Yeah.
So let's zoom all the way in. We are talking about the lipid bilayer of the cell membrane.
Lipid bilayer. It sounds Very scientific, very sterile, but Weaver describes it beautifully in the text. He calls it a fancy, delicate collection of lipids laced together in a highly ordered structure.
Laced together is the key phrase there. It implies intricacy. It implies deliberate design.
Yeah.
In the universe, order is the enemy of entropy. Entropy wants everything to be a uniform soup. But life creates order. This membrane is the absolute boundary between life, which is highly ordered, highly complex machinery, and the chaos of the outside world. It dictates what gets in, what gets repelled.
Weaver uses some incredible pop culture analogies here to help us visualize this architecture, and I know you love a good sci-fi analogy. He compares the cell membrane to the energy shields of the Starship Enterprise.
Which is such a great visual. If you watch Star Trek, you know that sound, that hum, that invisible shimmering wall of energy that stops the photon torpedoes.
It's the only thing keeping the crew alive.
It's essential. If the shields go down, the hull breaches, the atmosphere vents into space, and the game is over. The organism, or the ship in this case, cannot survive without that boundary.
He also uses a fantasy one. For the Lord of the Rings fans out there, he compares it to the soaring, pristine white walls of Minas Tirith.
Which implies something majestic, doesn't it?
It does.
Something built to last, something beautiful, but also something that is constantly under siege. It's a fortress standing against the darkness.
Exactly. It's a fortress, but we all know no fortress is invincible. And in this cellular environment, we have a very specific enemy laying siege, the free radical.
The primary villain of the story.
So who are they? What is their motivation here? Why do they want to break our beautiful white walls? Are they just, evil?
Well, evil is a human term, obviously.
Right.
In chemistry, we talk about stability. Chemically speaking, free radicals are highly reactive oxygen species. But the fatal flaw, the thing that drives their entire existence, is that they are missing an electron.
They're incomplete.
They are incomplete, and they're desperate. You really have to understand, nature hates an unpaired electron.
It abhors it.
Yes, electrons want to act in pairs. An unpaired electron makes a molecule incredibly chemically unstable. It is frantic. So Weaver describes them as agents of the dark side, going back to the sci-fi metaphors.
Like Sith lords of chemistry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They are driven by this insatiable, chaotic need to steal an electron from absolutely any source they can find.
So they're like molecular kleptomaniacs.
Violent kleptomaniacs. They don't just ask nicely, they don't share or borrow, they violently rip electrons away from whatever they happen to bump into first.
So set the scene for the attack for us. We have our pristine white walls of Minas Tirith, our lipid bilayer humming along. And here comes the free radical out of the void, desperate, frantic, hunting for an electron.
Right. The free radical strikes that delicate lace of the lipid bilayer, it smashes into it, and violently steals an electron from a lipid molecule that is just sitting there being part of the wall.
Ouch, so now there's just a hole in the wall.
It's so much worse than a hole. This is where the chemistry gets genuinely terrifying.
Right.
When that lipid loses its electron to the free radical, it becomes unstable itself.
Wait, so the victim becomes the villain?
Precisely. The lipid, which was happily part of the wall a second ago, is now a free radical itself. It panics. It needs to stabilize itself immediately because of that unpaired electron. So what does it do? It turns to its neighbor in the wall, the lipid directly next to it, and steals an electron from it to stabilize itself.
And then that neighbor is now the unstable one.
Exactly. So it steals from the next one, and then that one steals from the next one.
The chain reaction.
It's a massive chain reaction called lipid peroxidation. And Weaver uses a biblical analogy here that I think is incredibly powerful for visualizing the scale of the disaster. He compares it to the sounding trumpets at the walls of Jericho.
The walls of Jericho. So it's not that a single brick gets pulled out, it's that the sound, the resonance, brings the entire massive structure down all at once.
Exactly that. It's a localized disruption, that very first stolen electron that propagates a wave of structural failure. It's a cascading resonance across the membrane. The seemingly impregnable defenses of the cellular city just collapse catastrophically. The wall essentially unzips and dissolves.
And when the wall dissolves,
The city falls.
Yeah.
Cell dies. Entropy wins the battle.
that's bleak. We are painting a picture of total, inevitable destruction here. The forces of chaos are winning. But, as we mentioned at the top, this is a hero's journey. And we promised a protagonist.
Enter the antioxidant.
Yes. Weaver calls them the noble Jedi of the molecular world. We are talking about phytochemicals, flavonoids, polyphenols, the stuff you find in your green tea, your blueberries, your dark chocolate. But in this story, they are wearing Jedi robes and stepping onto the battlefield.
I really love the Star Wars connection because it perfectly explains the mechanism. Because you have to ask yourself, what actually makes an antioxidant special?
Right. Why doesn't it just become a free radical, too?
Exactly. Why can it stop this chain reaction when the structural lipids can't? Why doesn't the antioxidant just turn around and steal from its neighbor when it gets hit?
Does it have, like, a stronger shield? Or is it fighting back with its own tiny lightsaber?
No, and that is the brilliant twist of biology. It's not about fighting back with force at all. The antioxidant has a very unique structural capacity, usually a complex ring structure in its organic chemistry, that allows it to absorb and stabilize an unpaired electron without becoming destabilized itself.
Wait, so it can just take the hot potato and hold it? It doesn't get burned?
Basically, yes. It can donate an electron to the free radical to satisfy that frantic hunger, or it can absorb the radical's extra energy. It acts as an electron sink.
An electron sink.
Right. It absorbs the blow, and it does not turn around and attack its neighbor. It breaks the chain right there.
Weaver describes this specific strategy as sacrifice.
It is purely sacrificial. It gives up a part of itself to stop the cascade.
He actually compares it to Obi-Wan Kenobi on the Death Star.
Which is such a classic moment in cinema, and it maps so well to this chemistry.
It really does, because Obi-Wan sees Vader, who is the ultimate free radical in this scenario, just violent and destructive, and Obi-Wan doesn't strike him down. He doesn't go on the offensive. He lowers his lightsaber, he closes his eyes, he is completely calm, he lets the blow land.
That is the perfect analogy for what the molecule is doing. The antioxidant steps directly into the path of the destructive free radical. It essentially says, take me instead.
Yeah.
It offers itself up to neutralize the threat. It takes the hit so the wall doesn't have to.
And by taking the hit,
the delicate architecture of the cell wall remains totally unbreached. The chain reaction never even starts. The destiny of the organism is preserved because the shield took the damage instead of the wall.
That honestly gives me goosebumps. It's so poetic. We are talking about literal chemistry here, about subatomic electron transfer, but it plays out exactly like a mythological sacrifice. The hero dies so the city can live.
It really does. And that is the shield part of Weaver's title. The shield and the saboteur. We have fully covered the shield. It's the internal defense. It's what keeps our cells alive and healthy against the constant background radiation of entropy. That's why we eat the blueberries.
But Weaver doesn't stop there. And this is where the deep dive really earns its name today, because if he stopped there, this would just be a very well-written, flowery nutrition article. But he says, okay, we understand the biology now. Now let's look at the engineering.
This is the massive pivot in the text.
Yeah.
He introduces a concept called isomorphism.
Isomorphism. Okay, that is a $10 word. Let's break that down for the listener so we're all on the same page. What does isomorphism actually mean in this context?
It comes from Greek roots. Iso means same, and morph means form or shape. In systems thinking and mathematics, isomorphism refers to the idea that the exact same patterns repeat across vastly different magnitudes of scale. It's the core concept of fractal warfare.
Fractal warfare. I love that term. So the war looks exactly the same whether you are zoomed all the way in with a microscope or zoomed all the way out with a telescope.
Precisely. Weaver's asking us as readers to make a massive scale jump here. We were just looking at a cell membrane, which is maybe 10 nanometers thick, incredibly, unimaginably small. Now he wants us to look at the massive steel hull of a container ship, or the submerged titanium housing of a sail instrument down in the trench, which would be hundreds of meters long.
That is a staggering difference in size, from the microscopic to the literal Titanic.
It is a huge leap. But Weaver's insight, and the real expert insight of this whole piece, is that the fundamental laws of nature are fractal. The battle against entropy looks identically structured at any size.
Okay, so we have our ship hull now. It's the new wall. It's the new Minas Tirith standing against the dark. But the enemy has changed, right? We aren't fighting microscopic free radicals in the open ocean.
We are not. And this is where Weaver completely inverts the war. This is the fascinating part. In the internal world, inside the human cell, the enemy, the free radical, wants to tear the structure down. It wants to break the wall.
Right. Chaos. Destruction. Punching holes. That is traditional textbook entropy.
But in the external world out in the ocean, or honestly even inside your own mouth on your teeth, the enemy has a totally different goal. The enemy here is marine bacteria, or biofouling organisms. And They do not want to tear the wall down.
What do they want to do?
They want to build a structure up.
Oh, that's incredibly interesting. So the internal enemy wants destruction, but the external enemy is actually trying to do construction.
Exactly. They're trying to colonize the space. They want to build their own fortress right on top of our pristine fortress.
And this brings us right into section 4 of the piece, the external threat, the enemy fortress.
The target here could be literally anything engineered or structured. The smooth enamel of a human tooth, the titanium housing of a multi-million-dollar sensor deep in the Atlantic. To the bacteria, it's just a pristine surface, just like the cell wall was to the free radical.
And the bacteria want to set up shop there, but they aren't just camping out casually, are they? Weaver makes a point to say they're smart.
They are surprisingly, almost frighteningly sophisticated. We tend to think of bacteria as simple, dumb, single-celled organisms just floating around, but they know they cannot remain exposed.
Right.
If they just sat on the surface as isolated individuals, the ocean current would just wash them away, or the friction of your toothbrush would easily scrub them off. They're highly vulnerable alone, so they communicate.
They talk to each other.
Yes. It is a process called quorum sensing. It's chemical signaling.
Quorum sensing. Quorum, like in a corporate board meeting. Like, do we have a quorum to hold a vote?
Exactly like that. It's a perfect analogy. The individual bacteria send out these little chemical pings into the water around them, basically saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here.
Wow.
And when they detect enough signals bouncing back, when the local concentration of that chemical tells them there are enough of them to survive as a group, they trigger a collective behavior. They coordinate a massive attack.
And what is the weapon they deploy once they have that quorum?
They build what's called the biofilm, or if you want the scientific term, the extracellular polymeric substance, EPS for short.
Extracellular polymeric substance. That sounds incredibly sticky.
It is extremely sticky. It is a dense, impenetrable, slimy matrix. It's essentially a heavily fortified slime city. Weaver compares it to the Borg cube from Star Trek.
The Borg. Resistance is futile.
Because the Borg adapt to everything you throw at them.
Yeah.
You shoot them with a phaser, and they adapt their shield so that frequency doesn't work anymore. Biofilms are remarkably like that. It's a highly protective layer that keeps our antibiotics out. It keeps harsh chemicals out. It keeps natural predators away.
It's a bunker.
It is a bunker. Weaver also brings back the Lord of the Rings analogy here. He says it's like the orcs erecting massive siege towers and laying down an impenetrable dark fog to protect their advancing ranks as they move on the white walls.
That is a terrifying, vivid image. We have these microscopic orcs building dark siege towers on our teeth.
It is terrifying, but it's highly relatable, isn't it? Because Weaver brings up a real-world example that every single listener deals with every day. Dental plaque.
Yes. Plaque is a biofilm. I mean, I never really thought of it as an enemy fortress before, but that is exactly what it is. It feels fuzzy, it's stubborn, it sticks to the enamel.
It is a fortress. Think about your morning routine. Weaver calls our current methods of fighting this plaque crude kinetic weapons.
Toothbrushes. Dental floss.
Exactly. Mechanical holding actions, we're literally just scraping the hull. We are using brute physical force to tear down the enemy's fortress walls.
But Weaver points out the massive flaw in this kinetic strategy. He says, physical force leaves the chemical supply lines totally intact.
Right. You scrape away the physical matrix of the slime, sure, you knock down the siege tower. But the orcs, the bacteria themselves, are mostly still there in the crevices. The chemical signals are still floating around, and they just start rebuilding the fortress immediately.
And if we lose this daily battle, if the fortress gets fully established and we can't scrape it away fast enough,
then the real escalation begins. Once the biofilm is firmly there, it paves the way for the heavy hitters to move in. In the human mouth, it's the specific acid-producing bacteria that cause cavities. They hide safely inside the fortress, shielded from your saliva and your mouthwash, and they just slowly dissolve your tooth.
And what about out in the ocean? On the sail instrument?
In the ocean, it's called marine biofouling, the macrofoulers. We're talking barnacles, tube worms,
Right.
mussels.
The heavy, crusty stuff you see on the bottom of an old boat when they pull it out of the water?
Exactly. But here is the critical key that Weaver points out.
Right.
Those big, heavy creatures cannot attach themselves directly to smooth, clean metal. They physically can't do it. They need the biofilm to be there first. The bacteria have to lay the foundation, the concrete, and then the barnacles can settle in and glue themselves down.
So the biofilm is the primer paint.
It is the absolute prerequisite for destruction. And the macro-scale consequences are huge. It creates profound hydrodynamic drag on shipping vessels. A fouled hull burns significantly more fuel just to push through the water, which costs millions of dollars and creates massively more pollution.
Right.
And for the scientists at Sail, it physically blinds their delicate oceanographic sensors, making the data completely useless.
So we have this massive fortress being built by the enemy. Our kinetic weapons, our daily scrubbing and scraping are ultimately failing to win the war. We need a totally new strategy.
We need a saboteur.
And this brings us to Section 5, the offensive. And this is where the antioxidant returns to the center stage. But it is not wearing the noble Jedi robes anymore?
No, it is not. It is completely flipping the script. It is changing roles from the defensive shield inside the body to the offensive saboteur outside the body.
Its new objective is to actively disrupt the construction of the enemy fortress.
And this is where the chemistry comes completely full circle. This is, hands down, my favorite part of Weaver's entire theory. Do you remember how the biofilm is actually built?
The EPS slime stuff?
The EPS. To make that slime solid, to turn it from a loose soup into an impenetrable fortress, the bacteria have to physically lace it together, just like our lipid bilayer was laced together for strength.
Okay, I'm following.
It's a chemical process called oxidative cross-linking.
Cross-linking. So they are knitting the long polymer molecules together to make a tight net.
Exactly. It's like curing two-part epoxy glue or setting wet concrete. Imagine the polymer strands are just loose ropes floating in the water. To make a net, you need to tie those ropes together at regular intervals. You need to cross-link them.
And how do the bacteria tie those knots? What is their tool?
They use oxidation. They deliberately use reactive intermediates, which are basically highly controlled free radicals, to bond the polymer ropes together.
Wait a minute. They use oxidation to build?
Yes. They harness the very forces of entropy, or at least oxidative stress, to create their own kind of structural order.
And what do antioxidants do?
They stop oxidation dead in its tracks.
Oh, wow. I see exactly where this is going now.
It is the isomorphism of siege, the exact same chemical property that the antioxidant uses to save the delicate lipid inside the human cell. Its ability to easily donate an electron and quickly stop an oxidative reaction is the exact same property it uses to completely ruin the bacteria's construction project on the outside.
It's a precision strike on their supply lines.
Weaver explains the mechanics beautifully. The antioxidant chemically interferes with the polymerization process. The bacteria are trying to cure the EPS, right? They're waiting for those reactive intermediates to lock the molecular bricks together and harden the wall.
And the antioxidant swoops
and instantly neutralizes the intermediates. It hands them an electron they didn't even ask for or absorbs the energy they needed to form that crucial bond.
It's like sneaking into a construction site and swapping out the quick-dry cement for wet sand?
Or snipping the detonator wires right before the controlled demolition goes off. The cross-linking completely fails to happen. The energy shield of the bacteria fails to initialize.
And the final result?
The enemy's fortress cannot solidify. The biofilm remains soupy, weak, and unattached. It just washes away in the ocean current, or with a gentle rinse of saliva. The bacteria remain totally exposed. They cannot get a structural foothold. And if they can't get a foothold...
They can't summon the decay bacteria. They can't summon the heavy barnacles.
Exactly. The massive invasion is stopped before it even begins.
That is just incredibly cool. We are using the exact same molecule, the exact same underlying chemical behavior, giving away an electron, but the context of where it happens changes everything. Inside the cell, it's a desperate shield. Outside on the hull, it's calculated sabotage.
It is brilliant systems thinking. And Weaver talks about how we're actually deploying this in the real world right now, infusing antioxidants into advanced mouthwashes or clinical toothpastes.
So instead of just scrubbing with bristles, we are chemically sabotaging the plaque's fundamental ability to stick to the enamel.
Exactly. You are disrupting the active construction site instead of just bulldozing it after it's built. Or think about the engineering side experimental marine coatings for shipping. Painting the massive hull of a cargo ship with an antioxidant-infused polymer so the barnacles can literally never attach in the first place.
It's a total victory condition where we don't have to endlessly scrape and scrub. We just outsmart them and win the chemical war.
We win by fully understanding the enemy's metabolic supply lines and cleanly cutting them. We starve the fortress of its structural integrity before the walls go up.
This perfectly brings us to the epic mandate and the conclusion of Weaver's article. He talks extensively about the tactical advantage of recognizing this hidden pattern.
It's the sheer power of the isomorphism. When we finally realize that the war on our teeth and the war on our steel ship hulls and the war inside our delicate cells are actually all the exact same war, We can start using the exact same weapons to fight it.
We're wielding the exact same molecular weapon for two completely opposing purposes.
Right. We ingest it in our diets to protect our biological destiny, our longevity, our health, our cellular integrity, and we synthesize it in industrial coatings to protect our technological destiny, our engineering, our deep-sea sensors, our global shipping infrastructure.
It really firmly answers the so what question that listeners might have had at the start. Why should the listener care about this deep chemistry? Because it completely blurs the lines we've drawn. We usually think of modern medicine and heavy engineering as totally separate fields of human endeavor.
We do. You go to a doctor for one problem and a mechanic or an engineer for the other. You don't ask your auto mechanic about your cholesterol levels. But Weaver is forcefully arguing that at the molecular level, at the very frontier of physics, it is all just one unified battle against entropy. Whether you are actively fighting a cavity or trying to keep a deep-sea sensor lens clear of slime, the fundamental mechanism is identical.
It's about pushing the boundaries at the frontiers of both health and engineering simultaneously, using the exact same playbook.
And it gives us a profound new appreciation for the antioxidant itself. It's not just a berry you put in your breakfast bowl. It's not just a meaningless marketing buzzword on a bottle. It is an active participant with duality.
The selfless defender of the light, the shield.
And the cunning, disruptive saboteur of the encroaching dark physics. The Saboteur.
I really, really love that framing. It genuinely makes me look at my morning glass of orange juice a little differently. And honestly, my toothbrush too.
It absolutely should. It's all connected by the same physics.
Cool. Before we wrap up today's session, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocative thought. Something Weaver touches on briefly, but that really stuck with me long after I finished reading the source material.
Let's hear it.
We spend so much of our time and energy trying to neatly categorize things in our world. We say, this over here is biology, this over there is physics, and this third thing is chemistry. But nature itself doesn't have those clean academic departments. Nature just has fundamental forces. And if we can learn to truly see the patterns, the isomorphisms that span across scales, we can solve our biggest problems in ways we never would have imagined. Like using a common dietary nutrient to keep a 300-meter steel ship clean in the ocean.
That is the very essence of true innovation. Looking across the artificial boundaries. Not seeing a problem narrowly as biological or mechanical, but seeing it fundamentally as entropic.
So, the next time you brush your teeth, or you happen to see a rusty piece of metal on a park bench, or even if you just look at a massive container ship sitting in a harbor, remember, it is all a relentless battle against entropy. And you might just need a saboteur on your side to win.
Extremely well said.
That is it for today's deep dive into The Shield and the Saboteur by William L. Weaver. Thank you for exploring this fractal war with us.
It was an absolute pleasure.
We will see you next time. Stay curious.